Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting. If you have any, we'll be doing our meeting in English, but if you have any questions or feel free to call on us. If you do have a question, please give us your name and address so we can add it to our minutes. Otherwise, we'll just continue on. So I'll call the meeting to order. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Nope. Okay.
I move in a seconder.
And Dan Gagné.
What is that?
It is moved by Anne Tessier and seconded by Danielle Gagné. Be it resolved that the agenda for the West Nipissing Planning Advisory Committee meeting held on June the 13th, 2023 be adopted as presented.
Everybody in favor? Adopted. Carried, I should say. Okay, our adoption of the minutes. Do I get a mover, please? Dan and Dan.
Got to turn on the recording just a second.
Recording.
You said Dan and Dan.
Dan and Dan.
It is moved by Danielle Seguin and seconded by Danielle Gagné. Be it resolved that the minutes of the Planning Advisory Committee meeting held on May the 9th, 2023 be adopted as presented.
Hope that everybody had a chance to read up on it. Everything's okay? No questions? I'll call it to a vote. Everyone in favor? Carried. Okay, so we'll move on to number 5, our first zoning bylaw amendment application, 5.1. Jerry and Lee's Menal.
I need a mover and a
Mover.
seconder.
And Dan Gagné.
It is moved by Anne Tessier and seconded by Danielle Gagné. Whereas a public meeting was held on June the 13th, 2023 for the purpose of amending zoning bylaw 2014-45, and whereas no written concerns or objections have been received to the proposed amendment, be it therefore resolved that the Planning Advisory Committee for the West Nipissing Municipality recommends that Council for the West Nipissing Municipality adopt the proposed zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the property at 625 Canal Road, and more particularly shown on the attached sketch, and that Schedule SF8 of bylaw number 2014-45 shall be amended by changing the zoning designation of the property from RU Rural to RU12 Rural Exception Zone 12 to permit the construction of a duplex dwelling.
Any questions from our panel? Nope. Question from our audience? Basically, you all understand. We just want to change it so they're able to put in a duplex on the property.
And through you, Mr. Chair, the existing dwelling on the property was actually destroyed by fire last year, so the property is currently vacant, so.
Correct, yes. Okay, so if there's no issues on it, I'll call it to a vote. Anybody in favor? Carried. 5.2, 1000198696 Ontario Inc.
Read the resolution. I'll need a mover and a seconder.
And Dan
Which Dan?
Seguin.
It is moved by Anne Tessier and seconded by Danielle Seguin. Whereas a public meeting was held on June the 13th for the purpose of amending zoning bylaw 2014-45, and whereas written concerns and objections have been received to the proposed amendment, be it therefore resolved that the Planning Advisory Committee for the West Nipissing Municipality recommends or does not recommend that Council for the West Nipissing Municipality adopt the proposed zoning bylaw to rezone the property at 11881 Highway 64 North, and more particularly shown on the attached sketch, and that Schedule G1 of bylaw number 2014-45 shall be amended by changing the zoning designation of the property which property is more particularly described as part of Lot 4, Concession 2 in the Township of Springer, from M1 Light Industrial to M11 Light Industrial Exception Zone 1 to permit a hydrovac facility. Through you, Mr. Chair, I think I had included a great deal of information in the application. What is being proposed? This property is currently zoned industrial and was and has been habitually used as an industrial site for a number of years. However, the proposed use of the property, we were unable to fit it into any of the predefined categories that we have for permitted uses in our zoning bylaw. The technology is fairly new. And so this proposal is being brought forward by the proponent and their consultants, who are going to tell us about this. But before I give them the floor, were there any questions or comments to the report, my report?
Oh, absolutely not. I found it very detailed. Absolutely. Go ahead, Dan.
There's a pile of information on there that's not just for the regular layman. There's lots of experts that actually have been digesting this for a long time. I would call myself a layman here, the issue that I have just going forward is there any possibility of leaching out of these ponds, actually going to the neighboring and coming back actually south towards these people, their neighboring drinking sources of drinking water? Also, there's a tributary, there's a watershed that actually goes into the Sturgeon River. And the tributary is basically just not far from the inlet of the city's drinking water or storage. Is there, and I'm sure there's going to be answers for this, and it's not supposed, there's guidelines in place to actually not permit substances to be put in these ponds, but worst case scenario, like it's our duty to advocate to dummy proof this.
For sure.
So that it doesn't happen. That's the issue that I have, that I'm sure I will get a bunch of answers here.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and I am going to defer to the consultants to explain this, because I'm sure that they're much better at it than I am. My understanding I've never heard of this before either, so it's pretty new to me as well. My understanding is that these ponds are lined and that there is safeguards in place to ensure that there isn't. The intention is that the water evaporates, not seeps away. That's my understanding, and I'm nodding, so I read it correctly. My understanding is that they're not intended. Of course, I'm sure that there are always exceptions. The other point is that the material being brought on this site is not contaminated material. Apparently, there is another site in Sudbury where, if there's any suspicion of contamination or not just everyday dirt, that it has to go there. And before this leaves the site, it has to be sampled to ensure. But if you don't mind, I'm going to let these people who know way more than me share. Did you want control of the presentation?
Well, we can if you wish, unless you want to turn slides.
I was not given the slides.
Oh, okay. I have them. Hang on. I'm going to pull my camera down. My computer's acting up, if that's okay. It's just easier for me maybe to manipulate this. Now, where do I find share screen?
I have to give you,
You have to
allow
give
multiple
permission.
people to. Yep. Oh, I've given you permission.
Okay, so I hope that's the right. Now, is it sharing?
Yes, it is.
There we go. Okay.
So
All right.
perhaps firstly, if you could introduce yourself, that would be
Yes.
great, so the committee knows who we're talking
Right.
to.
Okay. And I apologize about the camera, but I was struggling here to get in initially, so I'll leave it off for now. Yeah, in any event, members of the advisory committee and citizen reps on the committee, staff, and members of the public. My name's Steve Edwards. I'm the planning lead at GHD, which is at 65 Sunray Street in Whitby. And also with me tonight is Fred Taylor. He's a principal at GHD from the Waterloo office. And we're here on behalf of Badger Hydrovac. I'm going to say just a few minor things on planning, and I think Fred has the important part, which is important part related to your questions. How would this thing function? The property you've heard is at 11881 Highway 64 North. Just before a couple of comments, I want to thank you for scheduling the meeting and preparing the staff report, which was very thorough. And that's the other reason I don't have to get into much. So let's just hope. Slide 1, if you're seeing that, shows where the site's located, north of Sabern Road on the highway on the west side there, leaving town. So that's the site location. Approximately the southerly third has been used for contractor's yard in the past, and the northerly 2/3 is bush on the property. We note too, and you can see this here, there's one existing residential dwelling immediately south of the property line. I guess I could point to it, couldn't I? Right here. And then there's 9, I believe it's 9 homes fronting on Sabern Road that are within 50 meters of the property line, although they're considerably more distance from that where the trucks will or would drop off their loads. Quickly, the official plan, the site is designated rural on the land use plan, and there's a broad category of uses defined for rural, including waste management systems, which are permitted, but that is subject to section 406 actually of the official plan. Zoning wise, you can see here, I can hardly read that, but inside the red box, there's tiny little letters there, but they say M1, which is the light industrial zone. I think that's already been mentioned. As well, what's been mentioned is the hydrovac operations don't really fit in precisely to any of the existing uses. I mean, there's some similar uses such as contractors establishment, transportation depot, and heavy equipment storage. But an exact fit doesn't exist. And for that reason, the rezoning is required. With that, I think that brings us to site layout, but I think that's a good place to turn to Fred, who's really going to talk about the operation and the ins and outs of these things.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's Fred Taylor, principal at GHD. I'm a longtime environmental engineer, almost 40 years in the business. So this is kind of what I do for my professional career, permitting these kinds of facilities and looking at potential environmental impacts and how to offset them. So as Steve said, and you said, this is a hydrovac operation. And what that means is that we bring soil into the site from vacuum trucks. And I'll get into it a little bit on the next slide, but essentially it's an essential service to remove soil by vacuum with the assistance of water so that underground utilities like gas lines, power lines aren't hit when you're excavating and so forth. So it's a critical service to the municipality and the companies that use it. And the site, as Steve said, there's some buildings at the south end where the office will be for the operation, but the soil itself will be imported, similar to the truck traffic that existed on the facility for a number of years when it was a contractor yard. So the trucks will come into the back of the facility and place the soil onto the ground here, and the water from the soil will gravity drain off into the ponds. And next slide, please, Steve. And that's the essential operation, but I want to explain it in more detail and answer your question.
Let me just shrink this down here. Oh.
So it's important to understand that the previous operations are very similar, where the The contractor had equipment, yellow iron construction equipment on site. He stored materials like gravel and soil that he used in his construction projects. This is a very similar use, but it is different because hydrovac trucks weren't used in the past. So a hydrovac truck is a vacuum truck that goes out to a road or a utility area where the soil needs to be removed before utility work is done, or repair work, or installing new utilities, etc., water main breaks and so forth. And it sucks the soil from above the utility so it is exposed and can be safely worked on without hitting the gas line or hitting the power line or hitting the water line. So a lot of the material above the utilities that the vacuum truck removes is gravel or aggregate and soil. And that soil is removed with the help of water. So water wand is used to loosen the soil so the vacuum in the truck can pull up the soil plus the water. So it's a soil water mixture. And each load that comes back to the site is approximately 60 or 70% water and about 30 or 40% gravel and soil. The number of trucks here is very small. We're looking at 5 trucks per day maximum, so it's a very small amount of quantity. The water that is used in the hydrovac trucks comes from the ponds at the site. So the empty trucks are filled in the morning or the night before. The trucks go out to the site where they're hydrovacing. They pull the soil and the water out of the ground, and they come back to the site and the water drains off the soil back into the pond. So it's actually recycling the water back to the site. So there's no impact on the water resources at the site, the groundwater supply. Next slide, please, Steve. So this is a local owner, been in the area for a long time. The drivers and workers are also local, so this is good for the local area. In terms of the environmental potential impacts, the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, we started consulting with them last year. There are similar operations like this going on in a number of areas in the province, and it's very strict how these operations need to be governed and operated, and you have to sample, as you said, and document that you're doing everything in accordance with the Ministry of the Environment requirements. So we submitted a pre-consultation application to the local district office, and we had a dialogue and a conversation with them. They had a number of questions, very similar to some of the questions that you had. What about soil impacts, water impacts, groundwater impacts, etc.? We addressed all of their questions and comments to their satisfaction, where they said, okay, now you need to go to the municipality and apply for the zoning, which will allow specifically this hydrovac operation. Only at that time can you come back to the Ministry of the Environment and apply for a permit to govern these operations. So that's why we're here tonight. The municipality has to approve this before we apply for a permit. As I said before, the water is returned to the site. So it's in the pond, clean to start with. It's used in the trucks, goes out to the operation sites and comes back to the site. The soil is sampled and make sure that we comply with all the requirements for soil being reused on the site. So the soil, once it's dried, is going to be reused on the property to fix the grading. There's a lot of, topographic changes to the surface of the site, and so it can be used to improve the grading at the site and level things out, repair the roads, etc. The water goes into the pond, and the pond is sampled as well every time, and the water has to meet drinking water criteria in the pond. And then the groundwater in the private wells at the house or the building on the property and south of the site will be sampled as required by the Ministry of Environment or as required by the municipality. And all of these things are detailed in a lot of detail and a lot of the documentation that we submitted to the municipality. And basically what the documentation is called is a design and operations report. So it describes what I've just described as the operation, but in a lot more detail, specifically how much soil, how much water, all the detailed sampling requirements are going to be done, how all the sampling and the quantities of soil and the loads brought in are documented. And then every year, there's an annual report that goes to the Ministry of Environment that confirms and certifies by the owner that all of the requirements of the permit have been met, and all the soil and the water and the groundwater meets the applicable requirements. So it's important to understand that the ministry or the municipality can come out to the site at any time, inspect the operations to make sure the owner, the operator is complying with all his requirements. The operator is a good local member of the community, has been for a long time, and we're comfortable that he's going to be conducting these operations in a safe and environmentally friendly manner. And he's dedicated to not impact the environment. That's how he wants to operate. That's why he's doing this work, and that's why he wants to use this property. He's doing the right thing by coming to the municipality, hiring us to help him provide the information to go to the Ministry of the Environment, provide all the required information to obtain the permit, and then comply with the permit requirements. And the last thing I'll say is that before the permit is issued, just in case something happens to the owner and for whatever reason there's soil left on the site, the owner has to provide a certified check or some other financial assurance to the Ministry of Environment. So if something happens to the owner, the Ministry of Environment can come out to the site, drain the water, remove the soil, do more sampling if required, to make sure there'll be no impacts to the environment at no cost to the ministry or no cost to the municipality. So it's called financial assurance, and the owner is going to commit to providing that to the ministry as part of the application for the permit to allow the operation of the site. So I went through a lot of information in kind of pretty big summary fashion. And as you said, we've submitted some pretty detailed documentation both to the municipality and to the Ministry of the Environment to support our application. And I'll stop here and certainly answer any more questions. I believe I've addressed your questions about the potential impacts and sampling and documentation and reporting from the operation, but I'm happy to answer any other questions or address any other comments you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Do we have any questions from our panel? Go ahead,
One
Mr.
question, just to reassure the folks that are actually making these decisions. I hear a lot of sampling, but is sampling done prior to dumping off your load? That's the thing. Like, let's say if there's an issue, usually it happens after the fact. Is to be sure that whatever actually gets deposited in the yard should have gone to that yard and not the Sudbury yard.
No, that's a fair question. So as I said, the water comes from the site and it's reused and brought back to the site. So we don't expect typically any of the water to be contaminated. The soil has to be dry when you sample it, and then the result samples go off to an off-site laboratory, which is certified to do the sampling that's required. We get the results back. If there's any issue at all with the soil, it's immediately removed from the site and transported off property to a designated facility that is licensed to handle soil that may be impacted. So no impacted soil will remain on the site for a significant length of time. And we found from experience that half a dozen of these similar sites with many more trucks and many more operations and larger quantities of soil and water being handled, that almost all of the time there are no impacts in the soil. So very few loads have to be removed from the property, and the water is clean. It meets drinking water criteria.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Anne, go ahead.
With the soil sample, do you test them only after you get to the site or before you extract them at the site where you're picking up the soil?
It's at the property where the soil is placed on the ground for the water to drain off. There isn't enough time, and because it takes 3, 4, or 5 days for the laboratory to actually do the sampling, by that time, the trucks would be full and be 4 days before any more hydrovacuum could be done. So it has to be done on when the soil is placed on the ground. And then that soil stays in that location until the sample results come back to verify that it's clean.
And the soil sample is taken while it's with the water or after the water, like in a stockpile?
In a stockpile, usually a backhoe is used to help the water drain off by gravity into the pond. And then once the soil is dry enough, it's sampled and it remains there in a stockpile until the sample results come back to verify that it's clean before it's removed or put in any other location on the property.
Thank you.
And that's the current practice at all these other properties too. And the amount of samples and the chemistry, the analytical parameters that are sampled for are strictly specified by the Ministry of the Environment. There's no gray area about how many samples you take. It's quite frequent. And there's quite a lot of analytical chemistry parameters are sampled for, like petroleum hydrocarbons and metals, things like pH. There's no shortcutting of the sampling requirements. It's specified by the Ministry of the Environment. And the owner operator will comply with all those requirements.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
I'd just like to ask a couple of questions about the company itself. It's Badger, that's correct?
It's Chris is here. He's the owner of the property and would be the operator. So essentially, it's kind of like a franchise.
It's a franchise, that was my question.
Yeah.
Okay, and I see, is he currently operating a similar business within the municipality or nearby?
That's my knowledge.
I'm right here,
Because when
but
I'm
I'm
sorry.
right here.
Thanks, because when I look on the website, it shows that there is a Badger service operating off of Riding Stable Road, just north of Joplin.
I've been there since 2014 in Riding Stable Road.
Okay.
And we've moved to DJ and Sons old building in August.
Okay,
So
why is the location, may I continue to ask questions?
So-
So why is the location that you're proposing better than the locate? Like what are the advantages for you to move to the location on Highway 64 from your current location at Riding Stable Road?
I was renting over there.
Okay,
I've got ownership over here, and
Okay.
because of this lengthy proposed, I can't do this on rented property.
okay,
It's a costly venture to
okay,
be doing this, so I wanted to buy something in commercial property somewhere in the area
mhm,
that I could set up a proper ECA approved disposal site for the hydrovac waste.
okay. The other questions I would have, and what you can answer I can go back to the consultants, is in regards to noise. So there was one comment from a neighboring property in regards to concerns about noise. Now, from the site plan, I saw where the trucks will actually be unloading is quite a ways north from the kind of settled area. Is there, what kind of noise do these trucks emit?
There's really no noise. You dump the truck much like a dump truck, but it
Mhm.
doesn't have the back slap of a dump truck.
Okay.
You wash out the material, the sand, the gravel, whatever it happens to be, you wash it out with the water. So there's no engine noise would probably be the only thing that you would actually be able to hear.
Mhm.
And it's not, it is not loud, that's for sure. Certainly not loud.
Do you operate just in normal business hours, or do you do it throughout the night?
It depends.
Emergency?
Just last week, Miller needed us out here on the highway, so we were, a night shift out there. So it depends. We are a 24-hour emergency service, so, Sudbury Hydro phones or Hydro One or North Bay Hydro phones at 4 because of a pole, somebody hit a pole, well, we have to respond, right? So that's the nature of the business.
Okay, I have another question then. Currently, the entry to the property runs just just barely north of the residential. Like it is, so the entry to the property is gonna stay the same. I'm just thinking about.
That's right.
Traffic.
Yeah, no, everything will remain the same. DJ and Sons operated not a similar business, but an excavation business that they were in, they were out. The neighbor that is just south of me, Kyle, we kind of have a shared driveway, we'll call it. And, or I have an easement, he has an easement on my property to use that side driveway, and we've had, zero issues with him on any noise or any issues, and that is the closest neighbor that we would have.
And
Thank
I'm
you.
Oh, sorry,
go ahead.
one more question.
Go ahead.
The land that runs directly east across Highway 64, and this might be a Mel question, is that agricultural land or is that rural? It just looks fieldy, but
There is
in the,
it is a farm. It's a farm.
okay, so there is crops being grown.
Yeah, and beef
nearby
cattle,
as
there's
well.
beef cattle.
Not, I wouldn't say crops
All
being grown,
processed.
it's cattle,
It's pasture.
just cattle.
I had one more, and I think I heard Mel mention that the ponds are lined. I didn't hear that though from
Mr. Taylor?
Mr. Taylor. Are those ponds lined?
It's not a requirement of the Ministry of the Environment. We demonstrate to them that the current practice of the sampling and waiting for the results and from other sites, that is not a requirement. So at this point, no. I mean, if that's a real issue and the Ministry of the Environment requires that when we actually submit our application, and the municipality will be able to comment on the application, that's a requirement when we apply to the Ministry of the Environment. They must accept comments from the municipality and members of the public as well. And if there's issues that come up like lining or other things that they are concerned about, then they may request them to be lined, they may not. But there may be other issues that come up that they require additional things as well.
That's the only caveat that worried me, because I know there's a presence of clay, and I know when we go north of town here, we get into lighter soil and it leaches more. That's the only reason I throw that out there.
What it is all in bedrock, so it's all the way down to bedrock through this bowl, we'll call it. And so it's sort of in a bit of a bowl of bedrock. That's where the water drains off to. So it's not just excavated down with silt and sand and clay that we're dumping into.
Right?
It's down into the bedrock.
Okay, and just looking at the imagery from that we have here on the mapping, like this, the most southwest corner of your proposed area where we would be leaching, resting or draining, that actually slopes back east toward the pond, or?
I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
But what we had the spring runoff. Right now, the water is staying at the level that it's at. And, we've had some we have some dry spell anyways.
Mhm.
There hasn't been really any loss
Right.
in the bigger pond. So, we're still unsure if we're hopeful that we're going to be able to reuse that water. It's going to stay there, obviously. But if it evaporates on us, or we're using too much of it with a replenishing type of thing, then, but right now that's the best hopeful idea that we've got, to reuse the water that we're and set up a pump system. But it really just depends on, like our operation runs all over Northern Ontario. So, last year we had 5 trucks up in Huberville. We were there for 6 months, so we weren't anywhere around here dumping anything. So it really depends on where the work happens to be. We do a lot of mining work. So, you have to go through this chain of events here to get the permit to allow you to responsibly dispose of the clean material in the way that the Minister of Environment wants you to carry on in 2023. So that's, hence why we're here to do the right thing.
So if there is an issue with the southwest corner draining the wrong, that would be addressed at the next stage.
The southeast corner? Southwest.
Of where the.
Right. And it certainly can be addressed, yes. At this juncture, we haven't seen any drainage that way. So, obviously, like you said, the property does slope that direction. The top does. And when it rains, certainly we can see it running down towards Sabran Road, right?
Mhm.
But at this juncture, nothing in that bowl is moving. So.
Fair enough. Okay, Anne?
You kind of answered my question. I just want to reconfirm. So the bedrock, is that a porous, I guess, rock? Like you said, it didn't seem like it was seeping through the rock. So bedrock technically is like its own lining.
That's what we perceive it to be, because it's all on bedrock, and it's been dug down, and it hasn't moved anywhere, right? The water is still sitting there without significant water dropping. If there was significant water level dropping with a pump in it, then I would suspect that yes, it would be going somewhere. But at this juncture, it does not appear that it's going anywhere, but just sitting there.
See that?
Just two questions. What's your plan if ever there's an overflow? Like we've had tons of rains in the past 2 days.
Yeah.
What's the plan if that happens?
So we have, it's a pretty big excavation. So in order for the water to rise to come over, we'll say the bank would probably be 8 feet. And it's, I don't know what the volume of the area would be, but I'm gonna say it's probably at least 60 feet across and probably 100 feet long. So I if there was a typhoon that showed up, well, possibly, but I don't see any rains to push over anything that we've got. It seems to be like even in the spring of the year, the water did raise up a little bit, nowhere near the edge of the bank. And with the warm weather that we've had, I would just say it's evaporated back down to where it was last fall.
Okay, and I have another question. I'm not sure if, I think maybe Mr. Taylor can answer. What happens if there's contaminated soil and the water is going to go in the pond, which now means that your water source is now contaminated? Do at that juncture, you actually need to empty that pond, move that water somewhere else?
Yeah, if the soil is impacted above the standards for reuse on the property, it has to go to a licensed disposal facility off the property, no question. If the water is contaminated above drinking water criteria, it has to be removed and either treated on site or taken off site, and either option would be available. And if it's treated and put back in the pond, it would have to be a lot of treatment like filtering, and then it would have to be resampled to prove that it's clean before we leave it in the pond.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I have just a question that if the opposite occurs, you run out of water, do you use your well? You don't have municipal water there, right?
We do not have municipal water there, and
Do you
that's
use
sort of
your well
a different subject, but we do take water from just at the boat launch here with a water pump.
Okay,
So we typically, at this juncture right now, that's how we're getting it.
okay. And
That's
you don't use your own well, the well on the property
No.
to pump
Not
into the pond?
There's not enough. I mean, we hold per truck 1,500 gallons,
Yeah, you wouldn't,
6,500 liters per truck. So you're not gonna get that out of a well.
answered my question.
Yeah.
Any more questions from
I'm
the
sorry, I
panel?
just
Go
have one
ahead.
more. So the
Yeah.
consultant managed at this time that you have approximately 5 trucks that are operating?
I actually have, we have 11 trucks sitting over there at the moment. We have operationals for 9. We have grown in 2014 when I was at riding stable, we had 2. We grew to 5 in 2018, and then it's gotten busier and more. Yeah, we're up to 11 this spring.
Does the Ministry of Environment manage, like, is there a maximum fleet number? Like, if you're super successful, could we have, like, you know, in 10 years from now, could we have 50 or 60 trucks coming in and out of that operation?
Not in Northern Ontario.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, you know, like, I don't know if
Other Badger outfits, what it would do, and I think Fred would agree, the other outfits in Ontario, when they grow, that obviously
the further away
your
you are,
management system is going to have to grow along with it, right? So whatever that looks like.
What the ministry permits is the amount of soil that can be stored on site and how much can be received. And if that is going to be changed, you have to apply to the ministry to approve that change.
I guess, you know, my concern again is with nearby residents, because like I'm looking at a Google map now, or Apple Maps, whatever it is, and that hasn't been updated, and there has been an expansion of our residential development heading up towards there. Our current urban service boundary is on Savarin Road, which means likely, and I know we can't base our decisions on what will happen, but, you know, like when we do expand our urban service boundary, is, you know, are we going to end up with this industrial site? And it's light industrial, but it's, you know, it's a heavier operation and has some environmental impacts that's going to be kind of bordering right on, you know, where our growth patterns are clearly happening. And that's my only concern, is the impact on the neighbors and the neighboring properties, and you know, environmental concerns with the closeness to the river as well, and where we get our water and stuff like that. So, thank you very much for answering all the questions.
Yes, thank
So,
you.
you know, it's a big project, and it's we want to make sure we're making decisions that are right.
Go ahead, Ann.
Chair. So the property is surrounded by this green area. So is that like forestry, like large trees?
The remainder of the property?
The wood, there's wood lot. And then that's all the greenery. So
On the property
Yes.
itself, yeah, it's all bedrock and trees beyond the area that we're working within.
and surrounding where your location is, it also shows that you have like trees on the borders too. So if anybody was to build on each side.
So there's
a buffer,
There's
right?
a hydro line that parallels the property rather, and there's whoever the neighbor is on Savarin Road owns a very large chunk of land going, I don't know if that's north-south, and then the ranch, the individual that has the cow owns a pretty decent chunk of land on that side as well. And I don't know how many head of cattle he has, but, you know, obviously cattle have an environmental impact as well, right? So on the same bedrock pattern that we're sitting on, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, and the property already can have a multitude of industrial uses, so
Yeah.
you're within the guidelines on that one. Okay, well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr.
I'm Chris, Mr.
Chris.
Yeah.
And do we have any more questions from our panel? I think we have discussed, he knows where the municipality and the board stands, so hopefully they can, we can keep in good terms all the way through. I can bring it to a vote. Is anybody in favor to the application? In favor. Okay, carried. We'll,
Just for your consultant's explanation, this matter will go to council on June the 20th to receive this committee's recommendation and to be given, because it's council that actually approves the zoning amendment. So the zoning amendment will go to council's meeting next Tuesday night. And following that, if council gives a positive nod, then there is an appeal period that follows the decision. And you'll be notified of all those steps as we go along.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
okay,
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to present the next two. This is a concurrent zoning amendment and subdivision application. The applicant is Memquisite Lodge Limited. The proposal is quickly to create seven residential lots on the existing tourist commercial property, which is located in the township of Loudon, at the end of Memquisite Road. It's the only thing on Memquisite Road. So the property, there's quite a bit of detail in my report, the history of this property, previous approvals that have been undertaken by the owners since they bought the property in the early 2000s, where they are now. And I think I provided a great deal of pictures that shows what the work that they've been undertaking on their property. So the proposal is, like I said, there's actually three prongs. The property needs to be rezoned, or the portion of the property that would be used for the residential lots needs to be rezoned because the property isn't currently zoned tourist commercial because it's a commercial fishing lodge. The property would require the approval to be subdivided into the 7 lots, all of which are of sufficient size, lot area, frontage to meet the requirements of the shoreline residential zone. And further, the Committee of Adjustment will be approving the proposed right-of-way from the end of the vacant land condominium road, which provides access to the property, to each of the lots. There's going to be a required private right-of-way over the Memquisite Main Lodge property to access each of these lots. So that's sort of the 3 approvals that are being sought by the owners, which is Memquisite Lodge Limited. I see that the principal, Mr. Doe, is there with us. I saw his lovely spouse Charlene a little bit earlier, and their consultant, Mr. Rick Miller, is here tonight to answer council's questions. So I'll read, with your permission, I'll read both the resolutions that are being brought with us tonight, and then we can move to discussion. Okay. I'll need a mover in a second.
Ann and Dan,
For both?
for both, eh?
Okay, so it is moved by Ann TC and seconded by Danielle Gagne. Our public meeting was held on June the 13th, 2023 for the purpose of amending zoning bylaw 2014-45. And whereas no written concerns or objections have been received to the proposed amendment, be it therefore resolved that the Planning Advisory Committee for the West Nipissing Municipality recommends that Council for the West Nipissing Municipality adopt the proposed zoning bylaw to rezone the property, locate a portion of the property at 506 Memquisite Road, and that Schedule J1 of zoning bylaw 2014-45 shall be amended by changing the zoning designation of a portion of the property, which property is more particularly described as part of lots 9 and 10, concession 3 in the township of Loudon, from C3 tourist commercial to SR shoreline residential. And it is moved by Ann TC and seconded by Danielle Gagne that a public meeting was held on June 13th, 2023 to consider approval of a draft plan of subdivision on property located at 506 Memquisite Road, more particularly described as part of lot 9 and 10 and concession 3 being parts 5 and 6 on 36R 13201 in the township of Loudon, owned by Memquisite Lodge Limited. And whereas written submissions have been received and considered, and whereas oral submissions were made at the public meeting, that draft approval be granted for a plan of subdivision submitted by Tulloch Geomatics Limited by its principal, Rick Miller, for property located at 506 Memquisite Road in North Minettville. Is it Minettville? North Minettville? Being part of lot 9 and 10, 36R, concession 3, plan 36R 13201 being parts 5 and 6 in the township of Loudon. Sorry for all that talk.
Do we have any,
So I'm,
do you have anything to add, Mr. Rick?
Yeah, I'll just briefly, it's 7 lots that we're proposing to create. They're all more than 1 hectare in size. They all have more than 60 meters of frontage on the lake. The first 4 lots that we're proposing to create have existing cabins from Inquisitive Lodge on them. There's existing log cabins on each of them. The lots have been designed so that we would meet side yard zoning requirements and so on. In terms of the front yard setback, of course, we can't move them. The cabins are relatively close to the lake. There is room on all the lots to maintain the 15-meter vegetative buffer along the shoreline. And they're all, each one of the lots has a the other 3 lots have a very suitable building site to construct a seasonal dwelling. The right-of-way at the rear, which will be accessed, has now been constructed and is in place, and driveways positioned to access each of the lots. There is existing hydro that services the 4 existing cabins. There will have to be hydro services brought in for the balance, and that'll have to be done in conjunction with Hydro One. And whether there's work that has to be done on the existing line or that is yet to be determined, but there will be hydro service available to them. The only other issue, in earlier applications on this property back in 2012, we had a large proposal for a vacant land condominium with several units and so on. At that time, we did an ESI, an environmental impact study on the whole property to deal with species at risk and any other environmental issues, and none were determined. There were no factors that had to be addressed. We also did a full archaeological study on the property at that time, which showed that there was no reason to preserve any particular areas for archaeological reasons. So those issues have been covered in previous applications.
Perfect.
So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from our panel? No, I do. Do you, will Mr. Dew be selling the 4 existing cottages that are there, or will it continue?
Yes, that is the intent of doing the subdivision. So they will be sold as
Okay,
lots on the subdivision with an existing cottage on them.
okay. And do they have their own well and septic?
They have their own septics at this time. They do not have their own wells at each of them.
Okay. And where the lines are, where the existing septic is, will not enter or be on the next person's property?
No,
It's all within the,
it's all within.
okay. Okay, those were the only questions I had on the property. Any more questions from, nobody from the audience? So I'll bring it to a vote. Everybody in favor? Carried. And carried on both? There we go. Thank you.
okay.
Okay, so we're moving on to the
Yes, and,
other.
yes, the other, summer meetings.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Chris.
I was wanting to know what this committee would like to do with regard to summer meetings. We can continue, obviously, I goofed up and scheduled a council meeting for the normal night that we would just habitually, we've always done that second Tuesday in July for our summer council meeting. I completely forgot we'd moved to that for planning. So if we're to move forward in July, we have to pick another date. I was suggesting the next week beyond that, which I believe is the 18th of July.
So we're doing council on the 11th?
That's correct. And I'm asking for anybody object?
The date again is
18th.
the Tuesday.
Yes.
Tuesday.
My only concern is I had already taken the week of the 11th to be around here. So the week after, I booked a tour. So I will not be here on the 18th. But if the co-chair can do it on the 18th, that'd be fine. But I've already.
Yeah, Dan's gone too,
Yeah.
you know?
I won't
Okay.
be
Are you
there.
back
You're
by the
leaving also?
24th?
Then let's look at another date. And let's look at another date.
You only want
Let's
to.
look at not going. No meetings at all.
We
Do you
can,
want-
we
are
can move
you,
it till September. I'd be okay.
I am off.
Are we only looking to do one meeting during the summer months?
Well, that is what we've typically done in the past. We can do it in July, we can do it in August. I'm completely open to it. My concern, my issue is I have my staff is off the last 2 weeks of July and I'm off the first week of August. So getting the circulations out and getting the applications ready to go for an August meeting is a little tougher than a July meeting. We could go the same week as the meeting of council, just on a different night,
Wednesday or Thursday.
the Wednesday or the Thursday night of that same week.
That would be the third week though.
No,
the
No,
first
I'm
week.
back in the,
Sorry, back in.
I'm back in
to
the
the
second week of
11th.
July.
July
The
11th.
week
So
of
July 12th
The
or
11th would be
13th.
fine. I mean, like.
Not the 11th, because we have council
No,
meetings.
it's council.
That
So
week.
that would be later that week?
Yeah.
Say Wednesday or Thursday, same week.
I'm
That would
okay
be fine.
because I'm here.
That'd be fine?
Yeah.
I'm not here.
Dan's still
You're
not
gone
here.
all week.
Yeah.
You're gone on holiday.
You're gone all month.
All
We
month?
can't do
There
anything
go.
with you. It's
I don't know what
hard.
I'm gonna
It's
do. Go to my
summertime.
Council too.
No, it's summertime, and I totally get that it's hard to work
Yeah.
around people's, and, you know, we want everybody to have an opportunity to have a holiday, so. But the majority would be okay with either the Wednesday or the Thursday of that.
Yeah.
Can
Week
we
of the-
make the Thursday so there's a gap between the
Yeah,
council
so that would be Thursday, the
13th?
13th. We all good with that?
Live with that.
Okay, perfect.
There you go. So July 13th. That'll be for, I guess, both, eh?
And and unless, now obviously, unless something, you know, earth shattering comes in and there's an approval needed for something that needs to move forward, we certainly will get together, but at the moment, I don't see anything that's, I'm looking at these two gentlemen over here to see if there's anything earth shattering. So typically, they would be the ones who would drive what we do. But yeah, so let's shoot for July the 13th for our next meeting. And with that, over in a second or two, call this meeting,
Kathleen, Dan,
which Dan?
Gagne.
Gagne.
Sorry, I gotta look up when I'm saying it. It is moved by Kathleen Rochelle and seconded by Danielle Gagne. Be it resolved that the meeting of the West Nipissing Planning Advisory Committee held on June 13th, 2023, be adjourned.
All in favor? Carried.
From the 13th to the 13th.
Yes.
Correct.
There you go.
So we'll take a bit of a break. We have,
Yeah, we fared out okay.
Yeah.
Elm Street.
Okay, we're back on.
Look like we need business.
Well, we got 5 minutes. There's no one. No one in the peanut gallery.
Nobody.
But we are
in the
recording, so we are recording, yeah.
Want to go?
Okay, we can go.
Let me see what's,
And if somebody comes
I
up,
just want to see what's first. Memquizit, huh? So
Quizit is fine. We already,
we already know where we're
Went
going
through
with
it.
that, so we can start, because if
okay,
anybody's coming for the next, we'll get there.
that's right. Okay, so, welcome, everybody. I don't need to do my speech, eh? I should do it so I get better at it. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? No, okay. I do need a mover and a seconder for the declaration. So Kathleen and Campbell.
It is moved by Kathleen Rochelle and seconded by Campbell Anderson. Be it resolved that the agenda for the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on June the 13th, 2023 be adopted as presented.
Everybody in favor? Carried. The
Minutes.
minutes. Well, does two, the adoption of the addendum.
There
and
was an
the-
addendum.
That's why I'm confused. Number 3, I need a mover, a seconder for the minutes. Jonathan and Campbell.
It is moved by Jonathan Sandiford and seconded by Campbell Anderson. Be it resolved that the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on May the 9th, 2023 be adopted as presented.
Hoping everybody had a minute to read up on them. Make sure there's no changes.
I wasn't at the meeting, so I never like to vote on minutes where I wasn't at.
Okay. Is
You guys
everybody,
still have enough
is everybody in favor? Carried.
So I'm just, give me a second because I was being remiss and I want to pull my presentation up so we can follow along.
Big crowd today.
Yeah.
Easier to explain these things when I have the presentation. Today is June 10th. Okay. All this technology is just so much fun. So, first application we have is Memquizit Lodge Limited, and this will bring all of the things we talked about earlier, put them on paper. So I need a mover and a seconder, please.
Jonathan, Kathleen.
Is moved by Jonathan Sandiford and seconded by Kathleen Rochelle. Be it resolved that the consent application made by Memquizit Lodge Limited for the creation of a right-of-way at 506 Memquizit Road in the municipality of West Nipissing is approved on the following conditions. The reference plan be prepared and deposited in the land registry office. The confirmation all taxes be paid, that all conditions be met before June 14th, 2025, that a transfer be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer for the issuance of a certificate of consent, and that a subdivision agreement be entered into between the owner and the corporation for the creation of 7 new lots to which the right-of-way is appurtenant. So this application for the benefit of Jonathan and Campbell, who were not at the previous meeting, what is being proposed on this is there is a 7-lot subdivision to be created just down here in this corner. So there's 7 new lots being proposed and were recommended by the previous committee. So the purpose of this application, this is the municipal road ends up here. This is where the municipal road ends. From this point to this point is what's called a common element condominium road, which was created around 2014-ish, which was to provide access to several really large lots that were severed at that time, like 50, 60 acre lots, big lots. So this time what is being proposed is a right-of-way from the limit of the common element condominium road to this down here so that each of these will be having their driveway off of this proposed right-of-way. And a condition is that obviously that this right-of-way is conditional upon the rest of the subdivision being completed. And also they have to enter into an agreement with regard to the right-of-way that'll be built into the subdivision agreement for the owners so that they know what their responsibilities are with regard to this private road. So
Where is this in relation to like the main lodge and their boat launch? and everything?
the main lodge is up in this area here.
No.
No?
It's
Up
not.
in the
It's
bay.
Up
it's
in here?
that Fingerling,
It's up here?
no, in that,
In here?
no, next
Okay,
over.
viewpoint.
Yeah.
Over there?
That's where the road stops.
Yeah, right over in
Oh,
here.
okay. For some reason, I always thought it was farther over.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's right in here. The main lodge is up there and the docking is all
Okay.
in that area.
So they'll be beyond,
They're beyond.
okay.
Now, there are cabins that go along, including the four that are over there, that are all part of the lodge.
So there's of the 7 lots that are being created, 4 of them have existing cabins on them that are part of the lodge currently, which will be severed off, and 3 will be vacant lots for residential development. So that is what this is. The purpose of this is just to tie the whole thing together by providing access to these subdivided lots that are being created.
That hazard land, right?
No,
No,
it's
really? Okay.
basically solid rock.
Oh.
There is a strip of hazard land right in the center of the property, sort of up where the word pin is. There's a big swampy area way up there. But just for, I guess this is 56 acres. This piece here,
I was just down there. the
Yeah,
other
it's
day.
massive.
Huge. It's
Yeah.
massive, yeah.
so the marshy area is quite a long distance away from the proposed new lots or.
Any questions on the application? Nope. Hearing none, I'll bring it to a vote. Everybody in favor? Carried. Okay, let's move on to number 2, C3623.
Thank you, everybody.
Take
Thanks,
care,
Mike.
Rick. Bouchon Fuel Sales.
Yes. Okay. I need a mover and a seconder, please.
Jonathan and Campbell.
It is moved by Jonathan Sandford and seconded by Campbell Anderson that a consent application made by Truchon Fuel Sales Limited for the creation of a new lot at 159 Railway Street in the municipality of West Nipissing be approved on the following conditions: that a reference plan be prepared and deposited in the land registry office, confirmation that taxes are paid, conditions be met within 2 years, a transfer deed be submitted. In an event that any portion of the municipally maintained and traveled road that says 10 meters from center line be conveyed to the municipality, that the owner shall grant an easement to the municipality for an existing water main. There is some uncertainty as to the location of the water main along Railway Street. If it's found to be within the limits of the property, a condition would be that an easement be granted to the municipality for the continued maintenance of that water main. But obviously that has to be determined between our Public Works Department and the surveyors, because we're not exactly sure where it is. And the Greater Sudbury Utilities have requested a 4-meter frontage easement along Railway. Now they have asked for it all across the entire parcel for the from the lot lines. I'm proposing that the 4 meters be from the existing location of the poles inward and where that takes them, because I believe the poles are in the road. I don't think the poles are on their property. They're on the street line. So 4 meters back from the location of the poles for the easement for the Greater Sudbury Utilities for maintenance of their hydroelectric utility. That's the conditions on that one. So what is being proposed? This is a straightforward severance. This property is zoned commercial. If it were to be used for residential, they would have to complete and file a record of site condition, because even though it's vacant, it has been zoned and designated commercial for a very long time. Both lots meet all of the lot requirements, fully serviced, water and sanitary down there, municipal services.
Is that where they just put a new billboard? Some construction company? No?
According,
No, not on Railway. That's on Salter.
Oh, is that Salter? Oh, on the street over.
Yeah.
That's beside the native housing that they just created.
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
one lot in between it.
Oh,
You had a question,
Now
Donna?
I have comments.
You
Okay,
had go ahead.
The the comment from Public Works. If the water main ends up in the middle of the Severn, what's going to happen?
I'm not sure. What?
Well, that destroys my lot.
Well, it should
Second
be-
of all,
Well, it would be along the front.
no, it's going through,
It's going through.
yes.
Aha,
And I'm a little disappointed on the comments on here.
okay,
They should have came up and told us what it's all about. Somebody knew about this before we
okay.
put this in. And the problem is that I think it's the one that goes through the tracks.
A water main goes under the tracks.
Yes. That's why there is an easement on the other side between Truchon's and Old Truchon's and Tire. Okay, Tire, whatever it's called.
Okay, I was not aware of that.
Well, that's the only.
Do you want to?
No, I don't.
This one? No? I have to leave the conditions as been requested,
I know,
but obviously you know you can come back for an amendment to the severance.
Well, my problem is why has this not been dealt with till now? I know, but these are questions I want answered.
I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer, and unfortunately, Mr. Remyard isn't here.
Well, these are things that are gonna have to be brought to them, because if the problem was known about, it should have been dealt with before we came in for severance.
Well, in our defense, we have a lot of, I'm gonna call it rogue infrastructure that was put in by
Not the client's
previous.
problem, not the client's.
No, I know,
problem.
but this is the reality of the municipality. We do, and you are aware that we often run into pipes that were put in places, drainage pipes, mains that were put in
This
by
is water.
previous administrations
This
that,
is water.
I know, but we don't know they're there until we know.
Well, somebody knew.
Somebody's gotta know.
Sorry, it's here.
Well,
I didn't even know about it.
it's a difficult system to memorize, right? Like, you're not gonna know until you look at it. If you look at the map, right?
Yeah.
But this is going on the owner's dime. That's the problem.
So, do you want, like, I can't, do you want it to make it, I have to make a
Let's
decision.
find out where it is.
Do you want to
But
defer
that's
the,
up to you guys.
you want to request a deferral?
No.
You want it to go through subject to the
Well,
existing
the
condition for the easement?
We want something else put in there that if it goes through the sever, something's gonna have to be done. Like,
Well, I can't write in something because I don't know what something is.
well, I don't know where the pipe is either.
No,
Can we ask, like you just said, can we bring it, continue on this and then ask for a request for the municipality to try to find where the, can,
well, once this committee makes a decision tonight, the decision is made. And I think what Mr. Goulet is asking is that we continue to make the decision subject to the condition of granting the easement. But I'm going to say that that would be between your client and the municipality to determine what compensation or
Not asking for compensation.
well, or what how,
But
what
again,
they, what to do.
If he's losing a full lot because your water has gone through there and he didn't know about it.
Well, and that's the thing, that's a question that we'll have to work out, because I don't know the answer. Like, the pipe is the pipe, and if it's providing water to
I just don't
railway,
want to hear the word past practice again.
well, unfortunately, if we had $1 for everything that was not,
No, but it's.
we
what's
try to do
done.
better every day.
What's done is what's done, and we have to deal with it. The municipality has to deal with it.
Exactly, so are you okay that we go through based on the existing request for the easement?
Yeah, we're okay with that.
Okay, and we can work out the details?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it, it's a question for you guys. So is that water main, is there housing or something beyond that train track on the other side? Is that,
It's the highway.
Commercial, highway commercial.
okay.
Yeah, on the other side would be
So
Front
what's,
Street.
so what's the expectation then if there's a water easement running through? Is the expectation from the client that city pays to relocate that? Is that where this is heading?
Well, we're not asking to relocate. It's just that when we put the severance in, we get this back oh, there's water there, but nobody knows where it is.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're asking the client to create an easement for them, and we don't have a clue where it is. And second of all, there should have been an easement done because somebody knew about this.
No, I get
Wait till a severance comes up to deal with the problem.
Well, and
Yeah.
if, I'm gonna defend the municipality that we do them as they come up because we don't really have a stick.
If the one across the highway was dealt with, this one should have been dealt with.
It probably got dealt with in a similar fashion on a severance application as well.
But, and two, would you not want to wait a little bit to find this detail out before it makes the severance? Because now it may shift his lot, right, like you're saying before. So
Yeah,
is
but
it,
he's
He
saying,
may have a case to say, no, we gotta do something about it.
okay, gotcha.
So I think we continue, yes, absolutely. If we're correct, it's running alongside the west side, from what I understand. Because that's where his water connections, I actually called the client tonight to find out where his water was coming from.
But he's
And it
getting
looks
his water
like
from the side.
From the west side, so that pipe may be running there,
Okay.
Okay,
which would be good.
yeah. So we'll leave it for now with the
here
easement?
to.
Yeah, I'll leave it for now,
Okay.
but with what grudge.
I got,
I know.
This is okay tire.
like, I can, put on my shoes and run over and pick it up, but
Yeah, okay tire, show fuel. Yeah,
So that
so
makes
right
sense
in
then.
between the two.
Yeah.
This is where it seems to be, but you don't know.
Verify.
Which you have to go, you have to understand their point of view
Yeah, yeah.
also.
Oh, yeah.
And just please, can they change exact location to be verified by OLS? We can't do that. We need.
I'll just put
mark it.
exact location to be verified.
Yeah. At least get it marked out so we can pick it up.
Okay,
We're okay?
I'm okay.
All right. Any questions from the panel?
So
No?
yeah.
I'll bring it to a vote. Everybody in favor?
Yeah.
Carried.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to C37, Ravailinlian-Leblanc.
Yes, and C37 is an amendment to an application that was brought, I believe, in 2022. So in 2022, the owners had made a request to sever 3 lots at the north end of their property on Nipissing Street. This application is basically taking those 3 lots, making them a wee bit smaller. The intent up here, I believe, was they were going to be duplex lots? Or,
No, the discussion was that they were trying to get water
okay,
from the corner of Canal and Canal and Nipissing Street, because it's right across the road. And they were
Yeah.
trying to see if they could bring the water down. And I finally had conversations with them to, if you want to get lots, let's go down to the bottom, start from there. If you get water later, well, then you can fix it.
so basically 3 lots, they're a little bit smaller than originally contemplated, but still meet all of the requirements of the bylaw for lot area and frontage. Just moving them from the north end of the property to the south end of the property. So I need a mover and a seconder. Got ahead of myself.
Kathleen Campbell.
It is moved by Kathleen Gershon, seconded by Campbell Anderson, the consent application made by Robert and Leanne LeBlanc for the creation of new lots at 382 Canal Road. Is the property address of this Canal?
Yep.
Oh, because they front on Canal.
Your front line.
Okay. 382 Canal Road is approved in the following conditions: that a reference plan is prepared, the taxes be paid, the conditions be met within 2 years, that a transfer be submitted, that any portion of the municipally maintained and traveled road located on either the severed or retained lands at 10 meters from center line, including the retained land, shall be surveyed at the owner's cost and transferred to the municipality, that the municipal clerk shall instruct the drainage engineers to apportion the assessment for the drainage maintenance into the parts for the lands being divided for the Marlow drain. So this property is in the watershed for the Marlow drain, so the assessment will have to be varied for that.
Any questions? from the panel? Nope. I'll bring it to a vote. Everybody in favor? Carried. We're going to C38, Marc
Yes.
Saint-Jean,
And
on
it's
Saint-Jean Road.
mover a second,
Mover.
please.
Jonathan and Kathleen.
It is moved by Jonathan Sanford and seconded by Kathleen Michelle. A consent application made by Marc Saint-Jean for a lot addition at 94 Saint-Jean Road in the municipality of West Nipissing is approved in the following conditions: that a reference plan be prepared, that taxes be paid, that conditions be met within 2 years, and that a transfer deed be submitted, and that a PIN consolidation be registered in the land registry office to consolidate the lot addition lands to the lands to which they're being added. This is a submission of an application from 2020, which lapsed. So this is just a lot addition. This property here, which actually has property on both sides of the road, this is just a little piece coming out of the much larger parcel. You see that there's a huge property back here, and Mr. Saint-Jean has agreed to sell this little piece to be added on to this little piece so that they have a bigger lot.
Any question? Straightforward. We're just coming back to it, right?
Yes,
We
yes.
went through
Saint-Jean
this,
Road is a private road. It is one of our private roads in the municipality. It's not a municipal road. It is a right of way.
So the severance was already done previously? Like that's already a separate lot, or this is?
The yellow one is already there.
Yeah.
This was previously approved, but he didn't get the paperwork done in time, so it's a resubmission of an application that lapsed.
But it's already a separate lot from the green.
No, it's part of the green.
Because they didn't do it in time.
Blue is part of the green.
Blue is part of the green. It's coming off of the green to be added to the yellow.
Okay.
Yeah, we had already subdivided it, but.
Yeah, you'll
we
see
waited- we
along
waited
there.
too long, so
He's
they-
he's added bits and
Well,
pieces.
no, it's just, the way it looks is.
And
that
it's weird
already
because
been
it's
severed and you're
behind
just-
this lot, but it also fronts on the right of way, so it looks like another lot, but it really isn't. It's just the shape of it, because it's right on the curve of the road.
Where is that?
Saint Jean Road,
Never heard of it.
if you go to Verner and you go down, Eugene Road, and you turn left at the end of Eugene, and then you turn, yes?
Yeah.
Well, close.
Or-
You turn left onto Alouette,
Yeah.
and then turn right onto Saint Jean. There's a beach down there and a couple of nice little roads, lots of nice little lots down there, a
It's
couple
very
of
nice.
campgrounds.
Nice area.
Very nice.
If you go straight, you'll come to Como.
Famous Verner Beach is down there.
A lot of the campgrounds are down in that area.
Oh,
So that's that.
Okay, everybody in favor? Carried.
Next application.
Now we're moving to a resubmission from, okay, now I see it. From the 33 in 2020.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to C40, 23, Kevin and Roxanne Nicholson,
Mover and seconder, please.
Campbell and Jonathan.
It is moved by Campbell Anderson and seconded by Jonathan Sandiford that a consent application made by Kevin and Roxanne Nicholson for the creation of new lots at 41 La Rochon Road in the municipality of West Nipissing is approved on the following conditions. And a reference plan be prepared, confirmation taxes are paid, conditions be met within 2 years, transfer be submitted to the municipality, and any portion of the maintained roadway be conveyed to the municipality. Through you, Mr. Chair, what is being proposed here is, these properties front on the Sturgeon River, or this large property fronts on the Sturgeon River. What is being proposed is 3 new lots, and you'll have to ask Mr. Goulet, 2 new lots, and then the river train, you'll have to ask Mr. Goulet about the shape.
No, that's what I was thinking.
All of the lots, albeit weird, do meet the frontage and lot area requirements for the zone. And I will leave it at that and perhaps,
The hockey sticks?
Yeah,
Just draw a straight line.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need access to the river.
We have to access the river, and if we draw straight lines, we're doing way too much area. So they're trying to, up at the top, that's a right of way.
Yeah,
That part, the part one, Plan 36R
I
8642.
like squares.
I know you do. Well, it is square. It's just got another square added.
Square plus a square, yeah.
Actually, the houses are probably gonna be at Rush Hour Road. This is just for water access.
Yeah.
And because I'm on the water, I have to give the 200 feet.
Mm-hmm.
But the road, you couldn't just draw like two straight lines right up from like, there's a lot of road and a lot of water.
It triples the area
How do you mean?
for each lot.
Okay, so the retained lands, you're trying to keep the bulk of the land with the retained. Okay, I get it.
They're trying to keep their land, because if you had a overview picture, you're gonna see that most of that's cleared by the
Owners?
the client, and those up there are the bush areas. But we don't have an aerial, sorry. That area where those severed are bush.
Yeah,
Okay.
Where the retained is, there is some fields in there.
yeah, okay.
So they're just trying to not go into the fields, but to give water access to these lots. Because they could have went straight up, but they wanted to give water access. But since it's a water lot, I have to give 200 feet.
All right.
Okay.
Are you okay, Kathleen?
Oh, yeah. It gives me a bit of a tick when the boxes are.
I know we dealt with that with Mr. Robert for many years.
I can tell when an application comes in whether there's gonna be somebody going with.
Well, I'm glad I. could
Trust
tell
me,
Mr.
I do
Rivera.
try, I do try to beat the weird lines out of them before it hits this room.
Okay, I gotta bring it to a vote. Oh, you go.
No,
You
that
have
was,
another question?
no,
You're
I'm
good.
ready for her, you know.
Get it out.
Better recite.
Okay, carried. Okay, we're moving to C41.
This is an amendment. So,
A mover and a second.
yes,
Kathleen and Campbell.
is moved by Kathleen Littlershaw and seconded by Campbell Anderson. The consent application made by SVK Complete Solutions, Inc. for the creation of new lots at 511 Piquette Road in the municipality be approved on the following conditions. The reference plan be prepared, confirmation that taxes are paid, that all conditions be met within 2 years, transfer deed be submitted to the municipality in the event that any portion of the maintained roadway be conveyed to the municipality. And this this was an application that was submitted last year. It's the same number of lots, they just changed the configuration. So previously this severed 3 was smaller. Previously this severed 1, does it say severed a half?
Severed one.
Okay, why is there a 2? Oh, because that's,
The one here, I'll go at it for you.
okay, thanks, Don.
The big lot is still the same on the east side, doesn't change. What they've done is actually the plan was registered, everything was done. There was a bit of family stuff that happened, changed the whole aspect, because the middle lot, part 2, the original part 2, which you can see, that was the house that was supposed to go to the family.
This thing down here?
Yeah, within severed 1.
Okay,
Okay.
So they've taken that part 2 right out, created a big lot for the whole thing, brought it down because it was going into the fields. At the top, as you can see, there's more dashed line. Maybe if I go over here. So this was a severed, and then this was, and this was the retained. So what they've done, the house was here, they wanted to sever this just for the house, that fell apart. So they decided to create this big severance, create the severance here and leave this as.
so the house goes with all of that.
The house is with the severed 1.
And severed 2, the lot line there, that follows
The creek.
the creek, yeah.
Okay, I was wondering why it would.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, there's a creek.
It's like
Went belly up there.
upside down Alberta.
Yeah, exactly.
Natural feature to follow for a a lot line.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Is crick a word in French?
Crick.
Crick. That way?
Okay, no, I got something across my desk today and it was spelled CRIQUE and I was like,
Hey, crick.
I don't know how to spell it, don't ask me.
No.
I just wasn't sure if it was a real word.
Does,
Okay.
may I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
On the severed 3 section, does Piquette Road follow down I don't know if I'm looking at north, south, east, or
It
west.
dips.
So that like the bottom line, the bottom border line of the severed 3, is that on the road or that's only has the road frontage at the corner there?
It has over 200 feet.
Oh, I'm not,
Yeah.
I know,
No,
I
it
just
doesn't.
wondered whether
It
it.
does not
So
continue.
the road
It
dips
does
big
not
time at
continue.
that.
Okay, I see.
And it's, Piquette Road is, it's a little,
Goes around the
Wow.
bedrocks.
Horse was drunk.
horse is drunk, yeah. Yeah, but he has left the,
Okay.
I always encourage them to see if they can buy the piece that brings their land down to the
Oh,
road.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
That'd be
problem,
ideal.
that it's big enough to create a lot,
Yeah, it is. But anyways,
but it's all rock.
It's all rock, yes. Any more questions? No, I'll bring it to a vote. Everybody in favor? Carried.
excuse me.
Okay, our last one, number 7, we're going to C42, Stefan Ward.
Yes. It is,
I
move in
need
a
a
second,
mover.
please.
Campbell and Jonathan.
One of those sneezing fits. My daughter laughs at me. It's moved by Campbell Anderson and seconded by Jonathan Sandiford that a consent application made by Stephen Ward for the creation of a new lot at 792 Michelle Road in the municipality of West Nipissing is approved on the following conditions. That a reference plan be prepared, that the taxes be paid, that the conditions be met within 2 years, that a transfer deed be submitted, that any portion of the maintained and traveled roadway be conveyed to the municipality, and that the municipality shall direct the engineers to apportion the drainage assessment for the Flannery Chrétien drain. So, Mr. Chair, fairly straightforward, lot to be severed, area of 1 hectare in the corner of this very, very large lot, 62 hectares in the retained lands, a lot coming out of the corner, meets the frontage and requirements.
That's the only severance off this property, eh, Don?
This isn't Dawn, this is.
Oh, I'm
Darwin.
sorry,
This
it's
is from
Don. Whoa,
Darwin's.
whoa, 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 sorry. So I would imagine that'd be the only one off of
As far as
that
I'm,
property.
there's nothing been offered.
I can't see anything else, no. Any questions from our panel? Just straightforward cutout.
I'm just confused on the drawing, like, cause what's the difference between the dark solid line and the light, like the light dashed line and then
Oh,
like the
the,
light
the
dashed
section
line?
on the left, it's a blow up.
Blow up.
Oh,
It's
this
a
is,
blow-up.
It's just a blow up of what's on
I'm
the,
like,
There.
there's a lot of lines and I'm like, it didn't make sense to me and I didn't know what.
on big properties like this, they often will give us a blow up of the area
Of
that
that
really
corner.
matters. So you can see the big picture and the little picture.
Thank you. I'm less confused than I was.
There you go. If we don't have any more questions, I'll bring it to a vote. Everybody in favor? Carried.
They're, they don't have 200 feet.
What?
They don't.
They're at 60.5.
60.5.
Tell them that to make sure.
It's 61, eh?
60.96.
I'll speak with,
Please do.
Okay, you're put it up.
Look at you and your metric now.
Tell them that they're,
He's on for other.
He's got us a time.
they shouldn't have
And
It's not
problems.
his first rodeo.
Yeah,
no, there's lots of room.
yeah, there's lots of.
Oh, yeah. they can-
Yes, indeed. Thank you for your
Your attention there, Mr.
attention
Don.
to detail.
Yes.
So at the previous meeting, for Jonathan and Campbell,
I was,
we were talking about summer meetings. Hey?
I was here last time.
No, I mean, at the
No,
previous
today.
meeting tonight.
Oh, that, I see, I
Yes,
see.
we determined to, because I had, as this summer council meeting has historically always been held on the second Tuesday of the month, in the summertime. So council has usurped the planning committee's night.
Sorry.
So the previous committee, they had all agreed that the Thursday, the 13th of that same week was,
It's fine.
it's fine?
Yes.
Tuesday, right?
No,
Yeah,
we're just moving from Tuesday to Thursday.
Oh, I thought you wanted a week. Okay.
Because that same Tuesday, there's a council meeting. So we can't do this on the same night.
Gotcha.
And we're gonna take a break for August if,
And then we're-
unless some terrible,
When I read this the other day, I swear I saw you just moved 7 days ahead, but.
Yeah.
I was suggesting moving 7 days.
Oh,
At the
okay,
previous
that's where I'm
meeting,
getting confused.
we had too many people on holidays that week and I wasn't gonna have enough
Thursday
bodies.
works way better for me, so.
Perfect.
That's great.
Perfect.
Excellent. So, mover and a seconder to adjourn.
Kathleen and Jonathan.
It is moved by Kathleen Rochelle and seconded by Jonathan Sandiford. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment meeting for June the 13th, 2023. Adjourned.
Adjourn. Everybody in favor? Carried. And we're
Are we still under a fire ban? Oh, sorry.
going back to the